Hey guys, this is Jimmy here and welcome to the first ever poker vlog. We are in Niagara Falls. So we are in front of Casino Niagara. I think Casino Niagara is the only casino in Ontario that runs stakes higher than 510. Normally their 510 also comes with a mandatory straddle, so it's generally a good game. We're probably going to be playing some 2-5 until the 510 table starts, and once it does, we're going to be moving there. So before I start, I'm going to try something a bit different here. I'm going to test the vlog while replaying the hand with the hand replayer to the right of the screen for half the video, then switch back to the traditional landscape full video vlog. Please leave in the comments if you guys enjoy the vlog with the replayer more, or if you guys prefer the more traditional landscape full view vlog more. Your feedback will be greatly appreciated for my upcoming videos. So without further ado, let's get into the hands. We start off with pocket 10s on the button. Under the gun +1 opens for $20 and the cutoff calls. We have a pretty decent hand here. While I can sometimes flat, I prefer to 3-bet here, and that's what I do. I raise to $80, the under the gun +1 folds while the cutoff makes the call. We're off to see a flop. The flop comes 9-9-3, 2 clubs, and the cutoff wastes no time and says the words.
We have an all-in.
He goes all in for $197, which is about a pot size shove. Now this all in doesn't really make too much sense as the cutoff should be checking this flop to me 100% of the time. I'm putting him on a club draw and my hand is way too strong to fold, so I toss in 2 black chips to make the call. The turn comes a jack and the river brings an 8. Neither of them are clubs. I'm hoping he's got a missed club draw and I table my hand. Good news, he mucks and we take down the first pot of the day. After a few more hands, I decide to take a lunch break and do another session after. On my new table, I decide to buy in for my usual 500 plus the loose change left over from my winnings earlier. I still have $300 in my pocket from the winnings on my last table and I'm feeling good. The very first hand I sit down, I get dealt ace jack of clubs in the cutoff. Unfortunately, I was in the middle of adjusting my phone, so I missed the pre-flop action, but here's the summary. There's an under the gun straddle, I open 25 from the cutoff, both blinds and the straddle calls, and we're gonna go to the flop 4 ways. The flop is a good one, it's 9 jack jack rainbow, everyone checks to me, and I bet 50. Both the blinds fold, and the under the gun decides to call. The turn is the 5 of clubs, completing the rainbow. It's a complete brick, and I know I'm good. I want to get value from a 9 or a worse jack, so I bet a small size of 70. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem the case, and he folds. We take down another decent pot. Moving along, we pick up ace king of hearts in the big blind. There's a $10 straddle, MP, hijack, and cutoff all limp. The button announces $80 raise, and the small blind folds before the button can even put his chips in. So the button definitely might do this light, and when you got a hand as strong as ace king suited, I think a raise here is just mandatory. I make it 360. The straddle quickly goes all in for only $120. He's short, and the action folds back to the button, which he promptly picks up his cards and folds. The board runs out ace, 7, 6, 8, deuce. We're pretty confident our hand is good, so we waste no time and just open our hand, villain mucks, and we pick up another easy pot. Soon after our player leaves, I decide to change seats, hoping my camera could get a better angle on the flop. Unfortunately, it wasn't much better, but life goes on. I get dealt ace 10 of spades on the big blind. Hijack and small blind limps, and I make it 40, and they both end up calling. We go 3 ways to the flop, and it comes deuce, queen 5, 2 hearts, and 1 spade. I do have a backdoor flush draw, and I have more strong queens in my range than they do. They shouldn't have too many strong hands here, so I opt to bet a bigger size of $80. Mostly only flush draws and queens can call here, and if I do get called, I'll get a better sense of where I'm at. Hijack thinks for a bit and ends up making the call. The small blind folds and the turn isn't great. It's the 6 of hearts. The flush gets there, and I don't see a point of betting again since he can have a lot of flushes in his range, so I decide to check, and he checks back. The river is the 4 of clubs. I've all but given up on this hand. It wouldn't make sense for me to bluff here, and if he bets, I can be certain he has a flush since a queen has enough showdown equity to probably just check back. He does end up betting $200 when checked to, and it's pretty much a slam dunk easy fold for me. I get called for the big 5, 10, 20 game, and on my last hand before I leave the table, I get aces under the gun. From a game theory optimal perspective, the earlier you are, the smaller your raise sizes should be. So I open to $10. MP is a reg and 3 bets me to $50. It folds to the big blind and he calls the $50. I started this hand with $1,000 and he actually covers me, so I'm thinking of the best way to win the most money off this hand. I decide to bet to a size of 260. He starts thinking about it for a bit and asks for a chip count. I'm hoping he at least calls here, but once again, I hear the magic words. The big blind gets out of the way and I snap call. We are now playing a massive pot of over $2,000 in a dream spot. The board comes 399, 8, 3. Now having the ace of clubs here greatly reduces the number of flushes villain has. I can't see him having a 9 or a 3, so I proudly open my hand and he does too. He's got pocket kings. It's a massive cooler and we scoop the big pot. I feel bad for hit and running, but the floor was pushing me to leave now or else I'd lose my seat on the other table, so I have to rack up and leave. I'm only in for 500, so this chip here, which means everything else underneath it, is profit. I'm over $1,500 profit on this table, plus 300 on the other table. Pretty much, I'm free rolling on the 5, 10, 20 table, so that's exactly where I head to now. We sit down on the 5, 10, 20 table, and nothing really happens for the next hour or so. I'm pretty card dead and decide to just stop recording till I pick up something playable. After what seems like an eternity, I finally pick up a decent hand, ace queen of spades. Under the gun opens to 60 and I 3-bet to 180. It folds around back to the under the gun and he decides to call. We go to the flop heads up. The flop comes ace 4-4 rainbow. He checks and normally I would range bet 25% pot on a board like this, but since I've been folding for the past hour or so, I was reasonably sure he would just fold, so I decided to check it for some deception. It also protects my check back range in the future. The turn is a brick, the 6 of clubs. He checks, and I'm gonna check here to give him one last chance to bluff on the river. I can't bet since I don't think he has much here. The river is another brick, the deuce of diamonds. He checks for a 3rd time. I know I'm good here. All I'm thinking of is what to bet to get hands like 9s or 10s to call. I decide on 200. He folds. Even though I couldn't get much value post-flop, it feels good to finally win a hand on this table. The very next hand, I get dealt ace queen of diamonds in under the gun +1. I open to 50, the small blind calls, and the big blind puts in a small 3-bet to 150. Now I'm never 4-betting here with ace queen suited, and since the raise was small, calling here seemed like the best option. The small blind also decides to join in, and we go to a flop 3 ways. The flop is ace jack 4. The small blind checks, the big blind bets 200, and we both make the call. The turn is the deuce of diamonds. Both of them check to me. The big blind really shouldn't be checking here with a strong holding after 2 players called him on the flop. I'm gonna see this as weakness. The pot's around $1,000. It's pretty close here between checking for pot control and just calling the river for a bluff catch, or just to bet out here since I think my hand is good here most of the time. I think I decide on the latter and just decide to bet 425 into the pot of 1,000. They both fold, which I don't mind one bit, and another pot goes our way. I'm feeling pretty good right now as I'm up over $1,000 on this table and I only bought in with all my profits. A few orbits later, I pick up ace-jack. I open 50, and the cutoff was away from the table, so he needed to post his blinds. He decides to call, and the straddle also calls. The flop is king-queen-8 rainbow. While I do have a nut advantage on this board, it is multi-way, and I don't want to bluff too often, so I elect to check, and it checks around. The turn is a jack. This card doesn't really help me much, so I check hoping it checks through, and also hoping the river can kind of give me some sort of improvement. The river is an interesting one. It's another jack. I beat all other jacks that's not a boat, and some kings might have checked the flop and turn for pot control too, so I decide to go for a bit of a thin value bet here. I bet out 100, hoping to get called by worse. That doesn't happen though. Everyone folds, and the pot goes our way. The next hand we play, I get king 9 of hearts on the button. Mid position limps, and I open for $80. The straddle and mid position both call. The flop comes 10-6-3, 2 diamonds and 1 heart. They both check, and I don't really have anything either, so I check too. The turn is an interesting one. It's the queen of hearts. Now a jack gives me a straight, and a heart will give me a king high flush. They both check to me, and since I still only have king high here, I decide to make a semi bluff. I bet $110. In retrospect, I think this is a mistake. I think a bet of $200 here would have been better, as a small bet here doesn't really fold out a diamond draw, straight draw, or even a pair. Mid position does make the call, and I have a ton of outs, so let's hope I hit a heart or a jack. It doesn't happen though. The river is the 9 of diamonds. The flush gets there, the straight gets there, and I improve to a pair. He checks, and checking here is the only obvious choice. He shows queen jack of clubs, and we have to just quietly muck our cards. This next hand, we get ace king on the small blind. Under the gun opens for 60, low jack calls, and we bump it up to 300. Under the gun makes the call, and low jack folds. Going heads up to the flop, it's 9-6 jack rainbow. It's not a great flop for me as the 3-better, and I would sometimes bet and sometimes check here for balance. I'm putting under the gun on a hand like jacks or 10s, so I decide to just check. He puts out a bet of $210. Now, I see no reason to force this hand to work, because I can also have hands like queens, kings, and aces that would also check here and call. So that's why ace king would just be a part of my range that just folds. It's time to move on to my last and biggest hand of the night. I'm dealt ace 10 of diamonds in the straddle. My buddy Stan, a very solid player, opens up to 60 in the mid position. The hijack and small blind both call. I have the option of just calling here, but I decide to go for a high variance squeeze play and decide to 3-bet to 320. After thinking about it for a few seconds, Stan puts in a 4-bet of 760. The hijack folds, and the small blind just decides to go all in. He's short, and it's only for $350. This is where I have a huge decision to make. Jamming here is just never a good idea, so this leaves me with the option of only calling or folding. I start going into the tank. I start the hand with about $2,800. I already put 320 in, and it's 440 more to call. If I call, the main pot will be about $1,000, and the side pot will be about $800. I'm putting Stan mainly on hands like ace king, kings, queens, maybe jacks, but I think a lot of times he will just flat with jacks instead of 4-betting, and I block aces. After agonizing for about 2 minutes, I do end up making the call. Even though I called because I was getting a good price, I know I'm behind here and I need to catch up. The flop gives me a small glimmer of hope. It comes 10, 7, deuce, 2 clubs and 1 spade. This 10 helps me against hands like ace king or possibly ace queen suited. I'm still beat against his higher pocket pairs, so I check and he checks back. The turn is the gin card, the ace of spades. I'm now beating ace king and all his pocket pairs. I'm only losing to aces, which I block, and I don't even put 10s in his range. If I bet here, it'll be pretty obvious I have a hand that contains an ace, so I check, hoping to under-rep my hand. If he bets, I'm definitely going all in. Unfortunately, he doesn't take the bait. He checks back. The river's another great card. It's the 9 of hearts. Now, if he has a hand like ace queen or ace king, he's beating ace deuce, which is a hand I could definitely have 3-bet him with. Checking here is a bit too risky, as he'll definitely check back all his pocket pairs. My decision now is thinking about how much to bet. If I jam, only an ace will call and his pocket pairs will fold. Since he checked the turn, and I already hold an ace, I thought it was more likely he had a hand like jacks, queens, or kings. I bet 700 targeting exactly those holdings. It doesn't take him long to throw in his calling chips, and I couldn't believe it. He actually had ace king. He was lucky he didn't bet, or he definitely would have lost more, as I definitely would have jammed on him. Small blind mucks, and the pot of over $3,000 goes our way. Not a bad way to end this session. I bought in this table for $2,000. That's these 4 pink chips here, and the rest below it is my profit for the table, which is about $3,000. After playing for about a couple more hands, I decide enough is enough and cash out. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the first vlog that we did. It was an amazing session. We are up 1,800 on the 2-5 table, and we are up 2,900 on the 5-10-20 table. Again, please leave in the comments below what type of format you guys liked better. We had 2 different types of formats. We had the portrait format with the hand replayer, and we had the traditional landscape format. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do in the future. I know when I release this video, it's going to be a month from now, and I'm going to be having a lot of pre-recorded footage already that I'm preparing for my next vlogs. And so for the next couple of videos, I might incorporate a little bit of both landscape and portrait. But if you guys like it one way or the other, please let me know, and I'll work on the videos for that format. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next vlog.